But when we wrapped the movie, I remember the last thing you said to everyone. You said, "See everyone at Cannes."
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
I made it happen.
If anyone has any requests for Gillian to manifest, please just see us after.
Little death, rise!
Hello, everyone, and hello to you three.
Hi.
Thank you so
Hello.
much for being here with us at the American Pavilion. I wanted to start by saying, I'm curious, this is not all your first time at Cannes. Jane, I know you were here some time ago, so I'd love to hear about that, and just what your general feelings are about being here now.
Good morning, American Pavilion. I think I did a panel here 10 years ago. I used to be a boy, and I used to have a shitty job that I didn't like. And I used to come to Cannes with that job, and I was at Cannes when I decided to quit my job. I was like, I'm depressed at Cannes. That was exactly 10 years ago, and now I'm not depressed at Cannes.
It's a very beautiful place to be depressed, so maybe there's something romantic about it.
I love that story. Yeah. That's such a good story.
I know, it's like it's true, it's actually true. I like literally remember sitting out somewhere being like, I need to quit my job. Why am I sad here? If I'm sad, or I was kind of like, well, this is about as good as it gets unless I like make some radical changes. So it's time to make some radical changes.
That's very cool.
Yeah, this is my first time here. Yeah, thank you. First time in Cannes, first movie vibes, and yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Just checking the scene out. Pretty good.
Where are the yachts?
What's up to y'all? How's it going? Yeah, it's such a high honor, and it's like so rewarding to be here with something that we're so proud of. So I'm really stoked.
Yeah, Gillian, you must have been here before, right?
Nope. I've been around a long time. No, I have been here for other things, but never with a movie. So it's a big deal for me. And I'm very, very, very pleased and honored to be here with this film.
But when we wrapped the movie, I remember the last thing you said to everyone. You said, "See everyone at Cannes."
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
I made it happen. That was me.
If anyone has any requests for Gillian to manifest, please just see us after, and she'll declare that for you, and we'll get that sorted.
It's true.
So
It's a truism.
yeah.
Jane,
Boy, and I can manifest your dreams.
Okay, we'll talk
Anyway,
after.
we'll talk after, yeah.
So Jane, I think almost everyone in this room has not seen the movie, including me, actually. So tell us a little bit what it's about, and maybe one way into that is what your kind of elevator pitch for the movie was.
It's a long elevator ride.
Yeah, it's a fucked up elevator ride. They're like pressing that door open. They're pressing the one with the triangles pointing that way. They're like, let me out of here. No, it's funny when you're me and you pitch a movie, you typically have to say something like, I have a very sad life story. This one was about the elevator pitch would always kind of start with the personal, because that's like they always want to hear about the personal in those rooms, in those elevators, and the personal is true. My first two movies came out of like a very specific moment in my life that was amazing in the sense that I was like becoming myself, but also if you've seen those movies, like were pretty intense moments, the like early stages of like figuring out that you're trans and like telling everyone in your life and like taking that like step off the diving board and plunging into like unknown waters. I often describe it as like it's like it was the same thing as getting on an SSRI, which is like you get all the bad side effects first, and and then it takes like a couple months for the good stuff to start happening. And this movie is about the good stuff starting to happen. And specifically like coming into one's own body, one's own identity, one's own sexuality. For me, for the first time in my life at age 33, 34. Teenage in the title. Yeah, I'm trying to be a little provocative naming the movie Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. I'm also like, the word teenage to me is like, the movie is about teenage things. The movie is about stuff that most people figure out about themselves when they're 15 or 16 that because I didn't get a first puberty that made sense, figured out in my mid-30s. What else can I tell you? Yeah, it's a movie about sex. And it's a movie about Hannah. Hannah Einbinder plays. They're like pressing the button. Like, this elevator takes a really long time. Don't they usually skip the 12th floor? What the fuck? Hannah's a
Damn Chrysler building over here.
Hannah's
Thank
a filmmaker. Hannah doesn't play me, but
There are fragments, emotional through lines, I think.
Hannah would like do little me mannerisms that really were both upsetting and lovely to see. Hannah is a neurotic, over-intellectual filmmaker who's rebooting a slasher film franchise that's sort of seen better days. You know, they've made 8 sequels to it, then they rebooted it, then they rebooted it again, then they tried to do a Tubi straight to Tubi series and it didn't work, and now because the original film is wildly transphobic, they need like a woke queer director to kind of like make it possible to make a new version of it. It's kind of like playing on the like Norman Bates, Buffalo Bill, Dressed to Kill, like this long history of the trans monster in slasher films. And so Hannah's been hired to remake this movie, and they're kind of like, make a woke version of it. And she's like, sure, but I'm obsessed with the girl from the first movie, who's now a recluse, who no one's heard from in 30 years, and that's the lovely Gillian Anderson. And Hannah goes to visit her to convince her to come back and return for this new movie, and discovers that she lives at the abandoned sleepaway camp from the first movie. And it's the middle of winter. And it's kind of like the elevator pitch. Press the open button. This portrait of a lady on fire if it was set during a Friday the 13th sequel.
Well, it sounds like relative to your other films, this maybe is a more optimistic picture. I wouldn't say that your last 2 movies, We're All Going to the World's Fair and I Saw the TV Glow, were abundantly optimistic necessarily. In a good way, though. Hannah and Gillian, what was your familiarity with those 2 films prior to first meeting Jane?
I had seen TV Glow in theaters, and then had gone back to watch World's Fair when I read Miasma, and then again have seen TV Glow probably 3 times just to try to root myself in the emotional state of kind of where Chris, my character, starts in the film, and always just loved Jane. And again, as I started to kind of try to absorb some of their mannerisms, I watched a lot of their interviews, and so I became familiar with them as a person, and obviously love. Congratulations, you're awesome. And so going in, I was familiar mostly with TV Glow, and then got to expand my understanding of their work and them as a person.
Yeah, and Gillian, I'd love to hear the same, and how, what your first meeting with Jane was like.
I had a similar experience. I had seen TV Glow and felt like I understood it, and it felt like there was a lot of recognition for me in it. And then when the offer came, I had a Zoom with Jane, and it was a really lovely long Zoom. And I also felt like we kind of got into a groove that was very both educational and I felt like in some ways we spoke a similar language just around around music and cinephilia and it felt from the very beginning that this was an important thing for me to step into, and it was important that I step into this and be a part of it, and I still feel that way, and I'm incredibly proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jane, so tell us why these two particular actors were right for these roles. I mean, for one thing, I imagine just knowing your taste, that you must have had a relationship growing up to the X-Files, for one thing.
Sure, yeah. I had this, and I told Gillian the story, I think, on our first call together. I started watching the X-Files like obscenely young. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember like the first time I stayed up to watch it, and I was just like, oh, that's where I want to be at 9 p.m. And then like because this was like before streaming, before even like DVD, I would buy the novelizations of the episodes. Like they would hire, this is kind of like a dead art form, the TV novelization. They would hire an author to like write a novel version of an episode of TV, and be like 150 pages. And it's kind of an interesting art form. I digress. But I had one of the episodes of the X-Files. It was like my most prized possession. And in the 4th grade, they told us, bring in a book that represents who you are on the first day of class. And I remember bringing this X-Files novelization, and there was this kid, and then we like sat in these like little tables, and there was this kid, Billy Osborne, who like his thing was he was like on the football team and he drove a truck. That was later on, not in 4th grade. And I remember like, so it's like a formative queer memory for me. It's like a very formative thing is I remember him like looking at the X-Files novelization that I had and then looking up at me and saying, oh, you like that kind of thing? I was like, yeah, I'm trans. But yeah, it was so surreal and lovely to meet Gillian, because there is this this ephemeral thing that I think you can feel psychically in the movie, which is that like I did grow up watching you on a screen, and loving that character and loving your acting, but also just kind of like knowing you, like when we first met, I was just like, I feel like I'm like meeting someone I knew in a past life. But then very quickly that went away, like very quickly, like when you work with somebody and when you have, in this case, like a wonderful and deep collaboration, it ceases to be like the idea of somebody and it just starts to be about like getting to know a human being. And so that's I don't really feel that anymore, or I didn't even from day one on set. It was just like, because you're not your characters that you play, and you're like an incredibly, and I knew this, and then I read Gillian has this wonderful book called Want that I very quickly read after we spoke, which is a collection of anonymous submissions from women talking about their sexual fantasies. And I just felt such kinship and also like a shared, like there's something, I don't have quite the right word for it, like intense. That we're both trying to work out.
Yeah.
And then for Hannah, it was just love, I love you. But it was funny because like I usually when I write a role, I really like to challenge myself to try to find somebody who doesn't fit the role. And with Hannah, immediately it was just like I could read the script and just like imagine Hannah saying every line immediately. It was like such a perfect fit. That was a little different for me almost. And I loved the idea, and it was just like such a right down the middle. But then the thing that got me obsessed was watching Hannah's stand-up special, where Hannah, you can just tell how choreographed it is, and not only like you physically choreographing yourself, but also like the camera is choreographed to work with you. And there's such like physicality that at times feels like uncomfortable or like deranged, or like I saw this like fearlessness at pushing into spaces with your body that were like uncomfortable. And I was kind of like, the thing that I was excited about was I was like, I see very clearly that we can do something together that like will make perfect sense once people see it, but that no one will be expecting of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Hannah, I mean, this role, obviously, this is your first lead role in a movie, and it seems like this role is quite different than something like Ava in Hacks. Were you setting out to do something deliberately subversive relative to that show?
Certainly. I mean, I think, like on paper, they have some similarities, which is even more of a challenge. But I think when you read the character, you see that they are so, really so different. I think Ava's like such a bulldozer. She's so headstrong. And Chris is far more in her head and kind of, bookish and intellectual and, neurotic. And so I think that like it was really important for me to differentiate. And you bring up the physicality. That was like a huge part of it. Like Ava kind of walks around with like her dick swinging a little bit, like she's just kind of swagging up. And I wanted to, create a little bit of insecurity, like physically there, and just, a little more like stuttery. There were like other things that I tried to do to just really differentiate the two of them. And it was, something I was definitely after doing. I hope I did. We'll see.
You did.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that transformation, because just watching the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is Ava that's in this world that's created by Jane Schoenbrun. So I'm really curious to talk about how you differentiated that. Gillian, Hannah's talking about how she kind of studied some of Jane's physicality in interviews and so forth. You're playing this reclusive Norma Desmond type of person. Was there anything that you modeled your performance specifically on? What were you looking at for inspiration?
For some reason, early on, her voice appeared to me, and it felt right. I felt like the way into Billy was through a Southern accent, and there's something about Southern that's incredibly vulnerable, and she's incredibly, she's very, very strong and guarded, but unbelievably vulnerable, and carries a lot of pain, and this particular accent felt, I don't know, just felt like her, and so and Jane was cool with it, and so I leaned into it, and that became Billy.
Yeah, well, I know you know your way around a Southern accent because you played Blanche Dubois on stage. And talk about another character that's all about vulnerability and carrying pain as well.
Yeah, I mean, she feels very different to me, but, I may be delusional. But she feels, it's a different kind of pain. And Billy's not self-destructive in the way that Blanche is. And I think Billy, in her reclusiveness, has spent a lot of time thinking and figuring things out. And she is not full of shame or guilt or fear. And so she, but she used to have all of that, and she's worked through it. And that's part of the beauty of the relationship with Chris, is that she unexpectedly is opened up to pass on what she's learned over the years, and in doing so creates a space for Chris to find that for herself. And so they go on this wild journey together.
Jane, you've said that every studio distributor that you pitched a movie to turned it down until Mubi came on board. Which is interesting given all of the acclaim and attention that was given to your previous two films. Talk a little bit about that process and maybe why you felt like that was happening, other than sort of maybe the obvious of like everything we're talking about doesn't necessarily sing commercial movie.
The funny thing is, like, I think it is kind of a commercial movie.
It seems that way, yeah.
Like, it's like when you guys watch it, like, you tell me, but I think it's about as commercial as I can do, which maybe is not commercial, but like, it's funny. I think people didn't like. One funny thing with this movie is like it's a comedy. And I actually think it's like fun. It's like funny. Like,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny.
It's fucking hilarious.
And this thing started happening, like when you work in Hollywood and like there are executives and producers around, like they're gonna be guys, or they're gonna be 50.
They're gonna be white.
They're gonna be white. There's a character in the movie called there's like a Zoom call scene in the movie where Hannah's character pitches to the studio, and you see all the people on the Zoom call, and there's like one trans girl, and her Zoom name is Queer Assistant. And so like there's Queer Assistant, but otherwise it's like it's a pretty uniform lot of folks that you're trying to appeal to. And when they all like watched the movie, even though they had read the script, even though some of them had come to set, like they were all like, "It's so funny." It's like that. I think that like there is this idea that like even if they don't even understand that it's the idea, is that this is their like trans vegetables a little bit, and they gotta eat them, so they could go make so they can go make another Ari Aster movie. It's like and then when they watched the movie and they didn't feel like they were being like scolded or something, or it wasn't like my very sad tale or whatever, they were like, it's funny? Like, holy shit, we hit a gold mine. I think it was always there in the script. It was just like, when you read a script, I've learned over the years that people don't see it the way I see it. It's hard to articulate. But I think it's very commercial. I mean, why did everyone pass on the movie, even though TV Glow was like critically acclaimed and like, like that? Beyond my wildest dreams, that movie had like this cultural impact, and it was crazy to be just like sort of greeted one after another with this kind of like shrugging, kind of like shirking indifference. Like a bunch of folks said, it's just like slasher films aren't commercial. I was like, that's how you know that's transphobia. I see the fucking shit you guys are making like 3 times a year, and they're slasher movies, I think it's pretty simple. It's like, I don't think there was like a conspiracy. I just think that like the vegetable thing is real, and like the people choosing what movies get made have taste of what they're excited to see, and the people who choose what movies get made they don't have the same gaze or interests as me.
Well, this does have a connection to TV Glow in the sense that you are collaborating again with Jack Haven, who plays this monster character. Can you talk a little bit about the role that they are playing in the film?
Yeah, Jack. This was like one of the first things I knew for the movie. I remember telling Jack at a Charlie XCX concert, I was like, Jack, come over here. I was like, you're gonna play Little Death.
Always comes back.
Always comes back. You're gonna play Little Death. Little Death is got a ceiling vent as his helmet, and he massacres lots of people. And he is sort of the embodiment of the orgasm. And he dances. Little Death, what can I tell you about Little Death? It's funny because it's like you meet Little Death and you see Jack in the movie through the context of a lot of different, like you meet a lot of different versions of the character, because there are a lot of different versions of the movie Camp Miasma, which is the movie within the movie, right? It's like 8 sequels. So you see a lot of him in the first movie where they're just like this kid. It's like kind of borrowed from Sleepaway Camp, if you've ever seen that movie. They're just like, there was this like kid who dressed up like a girl, and we killed him. We had to murder him. And so then he kind of like comes back to avenge. But then, like, as the movie goes on, you get like a more and more surreal. It's sort of like built around Hannah's character looking for like a new, this like sort of woke origin story for this character, and it turns into something I think like cooler and stranger than woke, as you sort of like tap into like, one of the central question of the movie is like, you look at the history of slasher films. I thought a lot about Psycho, right? And you have like, you have this scene that in many ways I think is like a foundational text of like 20th century gender and sexuality, the shower scene, where you have this killer, you have this victim, the killer is dressed like the killer is transgressing gender boundaries, in this way that we're supposed to be kind of horrified by, but the killer has this knife, this phallus, and then there is the naked victim, like that we're like, the person that we're the voyeur, not the voyeur. And there's the shower curtain between them, and the knife comes through and slashes her up, and it's like so libidinal and so eroticized, but also it's horrifying, and it's just got it all in there, right? And Hitchcock, as like a Freudian, knew what he was doing. I still feel like we're living in the reverberations of that scene, in that like culturally we have these fixed gender roles of like killer, victim, man, woman, dom, sub, or whatever, that we keep remaking and replaying. And I guess like a thesis of the film is that like the slasher genre, as we keep just making it year after year and playing out these tropes, it's like some place for our like spillage over not just like, oh, look how transphobic these movies are, but like culturally, like we got a lot underneath that we haven't unpacked, like it's not me that's obsessed with gender in the slasher films. It's the slasher films that are obsessed with gender in the slasher films, and gender deviance as this thing that we're like afraid of but drawn to. This movie is trying to like remake that language towards new ends.
That sums it up, man.
For the actors, I'm curious what your relationship to this kind of material was before these slasher movies that we're describing. I mean, were there movies that Jane had you revisit, or were you already really kind of hip to, the movies that this is in conversation with?
Yeah, my horror palette was more like Stephen King, like Saw, some like some supernatural, like Exorcist-y, like The Grudge, like stuff like that. Slasher was not a subgenre that I was like super familiar with outside of like the main, Texas Chainsaw and things like that. So Jane gave me I went to the Jane Schoenbrun Film Institute for Girls, proud graduate. So Jane gave me some really awesome movies to watch. Beyond, by the way, like beyond just the slasher genre, like a lot of in the psychosexual.
You're watching some real like pervert shit for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah. It was so truly like such a beautiful education. So I did a lot of movie watching.
Gillian?
When I was a young teen, one of the first times I smoked weed, I was at somebody else's house, and they started watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I had one of the worst first trips of my entire life, and that really dictated my relationship with horror and weed, as a matter of fact. And so I didn't have a big horror education, and it still triggers me a little bit. A few years ago, I started, while I was making comedy, I was watching like true crime, serial killer, really dark stuff to, I think, counterbalance the fact that I was finally doing comedy. And I found that was my happy place. But slasher and horror and anything Saw-like or psychological, like real psychological thriller stuff, I can't go there. But I'm happy to play somebody who, who embraces it and, really leans into that level of fear around it. Because my experience after, was real horror, like feeling that that horror that you can't not then dream about and gets triggered over and over and over again. And so there's a line that Billy has at one point about, really enjoying that. And there was something absolutely fascinating about that, the idea that instead of the minute you feel it, to run in the opposite direction and try and, change the topic, change your mind, but to lean into it and actually get a hit from it in and of itself, or to be excited by it in some way, was like a completely new idea to me. And I thought, anyway, so it's been a fun journey with my relationship with dark shit.
Well, this is the opening night movie of Uncertain Regard tonight, which is so exciting, and I imagine it's going to be a wild screening. What are the vibes that you're kind of hoping for in the room?
Adoration.
I hope people laugh. Yeah, I hope, when you're in the theater and it just takes somebody to set the tone of okay, we are a community in this space and we are all really gonna freely and openly laugh. I hope that tone is set, because it's that's the best feeling, when you feel like everybody's a part of it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's I don't know, I feel like I've been chasing whatever this feeling is from age 10, just making friends, watch a stupid movie I made on my camera or something, like the idea of being in that room tonight, at Cannes, and showing this thing that no one's seen yet, that I'm so proud of, that I do think is designed to take you somewhere. It's I think it's an immersive movie. I just that's going to be one of the coolest experiences ever. And I do hope people laugh.
It's a really special film. And I think the audience will get that from the second it starts. And it's hilarious, and it's important, and it's profound. And congrats.
Congrats.
Well, I couldn't have done it without you guys.
Well, that's a great note to end things on. So thank you guys so much for being here, and have a great screening tonight.
Thank you, everyone.